Hi everyone, and welcome to The Hash, where we bring you the latest and greatest in crypto and culture. And we are wrapping out another day of Consensus 2021, which has been an awesome day filled with an all-star lineup. We're going to go into some of those details on the show and also some of the breaking news that's been going down. So welcome everyone to the show. We have Will Foxley, Sanasie, Adam Levine, and Zack, Seward. And let's just dive straight into it. We're going to be talking about PayPal. So Zack, what have we got there?
We have got some interesting news out of PayPal today. So PayPal obviously has rolled out this highly custodial cryptocurrency buy and sell product in which you can buy cryptocurrencies and keep it in your PayPal wallet. To date, you've been unable to do anything else. But what a PayPal executive said today, and we're going to hear from him shortly, is he said, we want to make that so that you can send your Bitcoin to an external wallet if you so choose. Let's roll the tape if we could.
We want to make it as open as possible, and we want to give choice to our consumers. Same thing that we let them pay in any way they want to pay. They want them to bring their crypto to us so they can use it in commerce. And we want them to be able to take the crypto they acquire with us and take it to the destination of their choice.
Okay, that's really cool. So much fun.
So this is a bit of, let's call it progressive decentralization from some of the big fintech players who are dabbling with crypto products. Quite interesting. We've seen a little bit of this from Revolut, a little bit of this from Robinhood, and now indeed we are seeing it from PayPal. So I'm going to throw this to you, Naomi. I don't know if you would have guessed that this would have come so quickly, but we're seeing this here in May 2021 after they rolled this out in October 2020, giving PayPal users a bit more control over their crypto. What's your take on this?
So have they actually launched it yet? Can I go into PayPal and move my crypto off? Because there's a big difference between saying that they're going to roll it out. You know, there was a big announcement from Robinhood that we covered on the show, and I got a little bit too excited about that. I was like, oh, Robinhood, finally, you know, they're finally doing this. There was just an announcement. It was just, you know, you still can't move your stuff off Robinhood, and this was like months ago. So, you know, it's great that he's saying that this is the way they're looking. I would expect that, of course, this is going to eventually be what happens on these major platforms. If it wasn't, it would be very strange. So, yes, I think that all of these platforms are going to be moving into allowing people to actually use their crypto. But you know, I'm not going to hold my breath. Like when it actually happens, and I'll be excited because, you know, there's no telling how long it's going to take for them to actually roll this out.
Got it. This is indeed upcoming. This is forthcoming. This will happen soon. But today was the news that it was happening. And that was the first that we have heard from PayPal that they were interested in doing that. I'm going to throw this to you, Will. You're a big fan of PayPal. In that you're actually, you know, in general, you've been on the record stating that you're a fan of custodial Bitcoin services, right? Because they give you the ability to look at the price. It goes up, it goes down. You can buy, you can sell. Hey, that's the utility. Hey, why not? So, what's your take on this this announcement? Is this you know, throwing a bone to the crypto diehards, or is this something that you think people actually want to have when they buy crypto on PayPal?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of PayPal, huge fan of any custodial service, huge fan of people not being able to use their assets, just like right there on the record. Now, just like counter Naomi though, like it's an announcement, so I'm cutting them a break. This might not happen immediately. And like to get the back end for these things to function takes a lot of work. It's not so simple just to kind of roll out these products and services. Zack, like a lot of your reporting over this past year kind of touched off with PayPal talking about getting into crypto almost a calendar year ago. And then after that, we just had so many news stories rolling off the bat about all these custodial services on the back end being acquired by some of the bigger companies. So BitGo was in there, PayPal was in there, and then Curve was in there. It's like too many to really count. There's just like all these companies that these bigger guys are having to eat up so then they can actually facilitate the movement of crypto. Because it's not as simple as one would like it to be. Some of these blockchains are very easy to integrate, but that's not always the case. And as you add more people, and as you add scaling solutions, it just gets way more complex. So I'll cut them a little bit of a break. I think Naomi's right. Like we got to see what happens. But for right now, I'll cut them a break.
Yeah, thanks for the time perspective there. It was June 2020 when CoinDesk was actually first to report based on sources that PayPal was doing this. We reported over that summer that they were using Paxos to power their backend, and then come October, they announced that this was happening officially. So thank you for the time check. It is really crazy that this has been less than a calendar year. Adam, I saw your hand go up. Talk to me about sort of the backend picture here, right? So Curve was acquired. You know, obviously they have Itbit and Paxos on the back end. Talk to me about what are some of the things that need to happen to make this come to fruition.
So, I think it's really tempting to kind of lean into this whole narrative that every company that engages with Bitcoin should offer these types of services. But I think it's actually important to take a step back and think about what is PayPal actually offering? Who are they servicing, and kind of who is really using this service? I think that, again, like, you get into this hardcore kind of cryptocurrency native mindset around not your keys, not your coins. Those are trends that were set in place, and those were sort of lessons that were learned way back in the days, of 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, and so much has changed since then. The types of companies we were talking about then really could just vanish into the night, and you would be completely screwed. Is anybody really concerned that PayPal is going to go away and do an exit scam with everybody's crypto? Is anybody really concerned that PayPal is going to get hacked so badly that they don't have the ability to kind of use their balance sheet to make these balances right? I think that the challenges around actually managing these types of things, again, for the types of users who PayPal are actually servicing, these are not people who are interested in the technology. These are not people who are going to be making on-chain transactions. So I think it actually cost them very, very little to do this because nobody was using the service, who actually wants that in the first place. So it's almost a bullet point for them. More so than it is actually like a functional feature set. And honestly, they're probably doing their users a favor by not emphasizing it more, because the chances, the great part about being your own bank is that, well, you don't have to trust anybody else. The bad part about being your own bank is, well, now you're a bank. And there's kind of some challenges that come alongside that, as many crypto enthusiasts have learned themselves over time. It's not just a free trade-off.
Yeah, I'll add to that and just say, I completely concur with everything you're saying, Adam. I think they are doing users a favor. I think it gets real complicated real fast, and they got to figure out who their user base is. If you're hardcore, you're probably not going to go through PayPal in the first place. You're probably on some decentralized BISC peer-to-peer model. But I will also add that part of the narrative about not your keys, not your coins, it wasn't just to do with exchange hacks. It was also, coming off the back end of Cyprus, for example, where people had money in their bank accounts and the government just seized it. So it's the idea of financial sovereignty and autonomy, and knowing that you have control of your funds no matter whether the economy goes crazy and the government just starts taking money, or whether there are hackers, or all of that. So I think it is important to also keep that in mind and realize that there are lots of benefits to controlling your own crypto. But let's change track here. Will, what have we got next?
We got another billionaire getting into crypto. Carl Icahn, famous billionaire investor, says he may get into cryptocurrencies in a big way. According to a report from Bloomberg earlier today, he said that he has looked at and may have put already up to $1 billion into alternative currencies, particularly Bitcoin and Ethereum. So he noted a few interesting points on the record with Bloomberg. He said that Bitcoin he sees as a store of value, but he says that he sees Ethereum as not only a store of value, but also as a token with some utility for uses in a lot of different products, perhaps decentralized exchanges. So interesting to see that he's kind of noted the two differences that a lot of people have been arguing about over the last 2-3 years, as Bitcoin and Ethereum have kind of taken the main stage as the two largest cryptocurrencies. Also interesting that he's kind of put himself on the fence post between getting into Bitcoin and not getting into Bitcoin. He didn't comment exactly on if he made the purchase yet, but we've seen with some of these other billionaires who are getting into crypto that they often say they have gone into crypto after they've made the purchase and not beforehand, so the price doesn't pump. So I'm going to toss this right over to Zack. Pretty big news on the day in the midst of consensus.
Yeah. This is one of those Wall Street suits saying something about Bitcoin news, right? He was on TV. They asked him. He said, "Hey, yeah, I like it. I'm checking it out." So I'm gonna hold my judgment here. I think this is a bit perspective. I mean, we've seen the playbook where typically when someone of this stature says something like this, it means that they've already participated in some way, shape, or form. So in the back of my mind, I know that. But just having looked briefly at the story, it feels a bit perspective right now. If this were to happen, that would certainly be notable. Again, it's like another domino to fall, right? Icahn is a big deal, and for him to be talking about these assets in these terms, certainly interesting. I'm going to wait till I see more details before I cast judgment on what this actually means for the market. I think, Adam, you may have had a take on this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So first off, Carl, welcome to the party. You're a little bit late, but there's still lots to do, lots of activities. Now, I know it's fun.
Just in time
it's great
for consensus.
I mean, Exactly. It takes people time to come around on these ideas, but eventually, again, they are pretty good ideas, and so it's quite interesting. My biggest kind of like a chuckle around this particular story is that when he was talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum, he was referring to Bitcoin as a store of value, but Ethereum as a store of value and a means of payment. And that whole means of payment argument is a really funny thing to ascribe to Ethereum. Because really any blockchain that uses a real kind of blockchain protocol, you can get away with less decentralization and you can have higher throughput. But the more popular they get, the more expensive they get to use. This is actually a big reason why Ethereum became a protocol in the first place that really had something that was different about it than Bitcoin. Not because it really offered anything different from Bitcoin back in the day, but more importantly, because fewer people used it and it was a lot cheaper to use. So now that is completely flipped, and Bitcoin is actually substantially cheaper to use than Ethereum. Ethereum has layer 2s coming on top of it. Bitcoin has layer 2s coming on top of it. Really, any type of one of these blockchains we're talking about, they are all doing that. So again, it's just another indication that although he is now here, he actually hasn't taken the time to do his research. And is just kind of like following the crowd into this latest thing. So I think it's very funny when these uber rich people, go to their couch cushions, find $1 billion there, and then suddenly determine that they're experts around this technology that they really have invested apparently very little research into.
Couch cushion to find $1 billion. I love that. Sorry, Jen, go ahead and then I'll jump in.
Yeah, sure. I was just going to say, we talk about FOMO so much on this show from like a newcomer level and a retail investor level. And I just wonder if there's FOMO with the billionaires. It just seems like every day we're hearing from a different billionaire who's getting interested in crypto. And this story reminded me of the story about when he sold his Netflix stocks in 2015. And I was just thinking, like, is he maybe just trying not to miss out on the next big thing? But Will, what do you got? I saw your hand go up there. And then we're coming back to you, Naomi. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's fine.
I'm so sorry.
No, Will, jump in. You have something to say about this.
Not to cut you off, Naomi. Though I love doing it sometimes. Just kidding.
I know.
No, it's interesting that Ray Dalio spoke yesterday and said that he personally owns Bitcoin, and then we have this news, and this comes after like a slump in the Bitcoin price over the last few weeks. So that's kind of like notable to me. Like, does this kind of give legs going forward for Bitcoin to pump again, or is it just like not going to do anything? Is Bitcoin just still going to kind of sit in the doldrums where it's been for the last few weeks? Not a very insightful note, but I am just kind of personally curious about that. But I'm going to give it to you, Naomi.
Yeah, I'll just add that when he was talking about this, he said that any criticism around cryptocurrency having no underlying value is a little wrong-headed. And he pointed out, what's the value of the dollar? The only value of the dollar is because you can pay it, use it to pay taxes. It's such a great point, the fact that the dollar has value because it's fiat, meaning by decree. The government has decreed you must pay this, therefore it has value, therefore as a society we've accepted it. But meanwhile, we have this competition in money and the market has decided it has value. That seems a lot more robust to me than a government, dictating something where if, people find alternative means, they're just going to choose not to go for the thing that the government has dictated has value. So I like that he, was keyed into that take. He may not be a sleuth in terms of understanding the crypto community yet, but he's interested in it. He recognizes the value proposition there, and he recognizes the downfall of the US dollar as well, which I think is super important and why a lot of people are getting into crypto right now.
You know what else people are getting into? Desk. And so I think now is a great opportunity for everyone watching the show.
Such a solid transition. Did Ben teach you that?
I just got to represent Ben while he's not here,
Yeah.
I love it. Is that all it takes? We just say we drop desk and it happens, like a pause. We make it pour in this show.
I think so. We're just going to everyone gets desk.
All right. Good luck. Let's see if we can make this happen. Jenna from CoinDesk. Jenna of Desk, please hop in the chat.
Give the people what they want.
Give the people what they want. We're just out here entertaining. All right, cool. We're going to take a quick break. After the break, we're going to talk about Coinbase fact-checking, trying to control the narrative. And then we're going to talk to the CEO of Solana. Going to be fun. Stick with us. It's The Hash, and it is a special edition of The Hash because it's consensus, and we're bringing you all sorts of hot news all week long. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Desk is a CoinDesk-issued ERC20 token created in collaboration with NFT management system Unifty. It's hosted on an Ethereum-based testnet called Rinkeby. Desk does not have a monetary value and cannot be traded for other digital assets or fiat currency. The Taurus wallet has been chosen to support the rollout of Desk. The Desk beta is open to current and previous attendees of Consensus, as well as attendees of our Unlocked 101 series. All you need to do to start earning is head over to coindesk.com/desk, enter your email, and claim using your access code. Make sure you're registered for Consensus by CoinDesk 2021 to get in on the action.
Hey, it looks like Tom Brady is going to be on Consensus later this week. That's pretty crazy. Tom Brady, I mean, to me, top billing there, Sam Bankman-Fried. Okay, they say Tom Brady is the GOAT. SBF is the real GOAT here. So that's what I'm looking forward to. It's going to be a great conversation. Speaking of conversations, let's change gears. We're going to go to a base layer in which SBF is heavily invested, and we're going to talk about the Solana ecosystem with CEO Anatoly Yakovenko. Anatoly, you there?
Yeah. Hey, guys.
How's that La Croix treating you, sir?
It's awesome. I'm simulating office
what we
life.
got here? You got mango. What are you working on? What are you working on here? Pamplemousse?
Tangerine.
Tangerine.
Okay.
There you go.
Tangerine. Okay,
Not
this is my question to
sponsored.
you. If Solana was a La Croix flavor, what would it be, and why is Solana so great?
Coconut. It just grows on you.
Tropical.
It grows on you, and then it becomes your favorite flavor.
Interesting. So, I'll do a quick TLDR of what Solana is. Solana is a high throughput blockchain. It's speedy. It's proof of stake. It enables a lot of DeFi functionality. It has Serum and other projects being built on it as we speak. What do you think the secret sauce is for Solana, and what stands out in its development here at this point in time in the middle of 2021?
We really built this network for this idea of censorship resistance being the key part to global price discovery engine. It's really the same thing, right? Like, you think about a box in Manhattan that's running New York Stock Exchange, but if I want to plug into that market, I have to actually go through a bunch of hoops, get my machine and co-locate it there, and they give me a cable that's exactly the same length as everyone else's. That's censorship resistance, right? I am guaranteed fair access to the markets amongst everyone else. So can we actually replicate this with commodity software, commodity hardware at a global scale? So this is what we're building for. And the cool thing is that how we design the system is it can actually run central limit order books. So the same thing that runs Sanasie, the same thing that runs Binance FTX, that's Project Serum. This was something that Sam and their team have been looking for way before they even talked to us. And when they saw that they can actually do it, 4 weeks later, there was Serum. So we're pretty stoked about that. It's, I think, a fundamentally different approach to building these systems, and really one that enables like a whole new DeFi primitive.
All right, I'm going to do one last question, and then I'm going to throw it to Naomi after this. I sort of like this concept that one of my colleagues trotted out maybe a year ago. Brittany Dale sort of had this concept of the battle for the base layer, right? We're seeing all these competing base layers hit the scene, sort of finding their stride. I kind of wanted you to sort of give me a landscape. Give me your view of the landscape right now. There's a lot of really interesting base layers coming on board. Whether it's Solana, whether it's Near, whether it's Binance Smart Chain, whether it's Cosmos. There's a ton of networks that are actually seeing some interesting usage right now. From where you sit, what's the lay of the land, and what's the state of the base layer war in your mind?
I think there's a lot of chains that are just trying to be Ethereum, but a little faster, and haven't built any fundamental improvements. And I think those are all gonna eat each other up alive from my perspective, because there isn't anything new that's unlocked by any of them, right? Like, there isn't like a fundamental new primitive or new tool that you can't already get working on Ethereum or Matic or any other EVM compatible chain. So in my mind, like, I don't know what the most dominant thing is or the most important use case for crypto is. I have no clue, but I think the price discovery thing is a really hard problem and really interesting, and we're succeeding there. And it's quite possible that that's the most important piece for crypto. So from our perspective, like, we made a big bet on one thing, and we're executing well there.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. I wanted to ask you about Solana in comparison to Ethereum. So a lot of people sort of position Solana as the Ethereum killer, basically because you guys have a fundamentally different approach to scaling. You have basically 4 different fragmented scaling options you can choose from on Ethereum, which does make it more difficult for DeFi projects to build, whereas Solana is really doing it at the base layer. So talk about some of the advantages of that you've seen and what it's going to take to really maybe see a flippening with something like Ethereum, whether it's Solana that does that flippening or another project.
So DeFi price discovery, for that particular use case, it's really hard to scale it without scaling the whole thing. Because the key part here isn't that you're moving users or moving markets, is that a price at a particular exchange or a particular market, that's the thing that traders want. And if that particular price has limited capacity, they will throw as much money at it if the opportunity is there for them to take it. So in that moment, you're going to hit whatever capacity of that chain is, you're going to hit those limits if traders can't get to those markets. So sharding, roll-ups, none of those things actually solve that one problem. So we'll see if it ends up being that trading price discovery, that's the most important thing. The way we've designed the system is it's just as big of a pipe and as much capacity as we can give to market participants that can throw the orders, the cancels, whatever the hell they want into the system and trade, right? And if that happens to be the most important thing, then DeFi will work much, much better on Solana. And from that perspective, I think of it more as like execution versus settlement. Doesn't really matter where settlement occurs. If all the execution is clearing is occurring in one giant marketplace, that's cool. And you see some of the stuff play out in a project like Audius, where the token is issued on Ethereum, but the interaction between the fan and the people that are actually following them and participating in music, the music plays, the likes, all those things, kind of the cheap, fun things that people want to do in that crypto-driven social network, that's happening on Solana. And who cares where the settlement happens, right? Like, the cool thing is of actually connecting people, the execution part, if you want to think of it that way, that's happening somewhere where you have the capacity to do it.
Yeah, so I want to jump in there. I've talked to a lot of builders of different, like, various Ethereum killers or Ethereum chains, and I think the perspectives are all like decently close and they're interesting, kind of the nuances between them. But I want to kind of look back and see what you think about Bitcoin personally, especially as we saw like the ETH BTC ratio get dangerously high for flippening, and we've seen Bitcoin kind of stalling out while DeFi summer was going on. Like, do you see the current Bitcoin model sustainable? And do you see the ability for there to be like a multiple chains where Bitcoin kind of acts as a store of value amidst all these other networks that are doing anything from lending to exchanges or whatnot?
I think there's real truth to this, like, proof of work being this digital monument, like this like heavy amount of thermodynamic energy that secures the network. It would be interesting if, like, you see some phenomenons with flashbots and miner extractable value actually make the Ethereum ETH1, the proof of work version of it, more secure than Bitcoin. I think if that happens, you might actually start seeing people claiming that Ethereum is a better store of value, and that narrative might change for Bitcoin. This really, like, if you don't have proof of work, I think it's very, very hard for you to claim store of value. You can still build cool systems, right? Censorship resistance is still like a really, really cool thing as part of these systems that's not store of value. But if Bitcoin loses its kind of dominance in the hash power, like, I'm the strongest chain by hash power, I don't know if it can still remain kind of the de facto store of value. So we'll see. This is like exciting times, right?
Yeah, no, super exciting times. That's a really interesting point. Because there has been like a lot of attacks on proof of work lately, and especially with like proof of stake coming to Ethereum pretty soon here, and then even chains like Solana or other kind of Ethereum competitors or killers or compatible chains that typically don't lean on proof of work. Everyone's trying to scurry away from it, but I'd be interested. Can you go into that? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Over the long term, if Solana, like if we're able to connect 100 million people or 1 billion people with their own self-custody cryptographic keys, right? They're all signing the same state. They're all participating in this one giant cryptographically signed environment. There's a lot of kind of digital monetary like dispersion there that I think can eat a lot of what Bitcoin has to offer today, right? That like I remember working at this big giant corporation, and for me, as an engineer, to sign anything was 6 months of meetings. And right now, everyone that holds a ledger, that holds Bitcoin, has that power of cryptographically signing stuff. They can, Binance signs 1 million things a day. Everyone with MetaMask signs like, as many signatures as they want, right? And that power is now like in the hands of maybe 20 million people at most, maybe 30. How many of them are like actually daily active users? Whatever network can scale that to 100 million, 1 billion, I think can eat a lot of what Bitcoin is today. But I don't know if it can really eat the digital gold store value thing, right? Like that to my mind is really tied to proof of work. And maybe the next generation networks don't even need to worry about that. Like we are personally not something that I feel like is a battle we need to fight, because the censorship resistant global price discovery engine, that is such a hard problem on its own that that's more than enough work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, I'll take the last question. You got it, Jen? You got it.
All right. I was going to just take us in a totally different direction. So sorry, Zach. Okay. There's a project that is being built on Solana that I've spoken about on the show before, because it just hurts me. The burnt finance guys are building on Solana. They burnt the Banksy piece, and that's just kind of what came to mind when I heard that you were going to be on the show tonight. And so I want to know what project is being built on Solana that really excites you. I'm asking you to choose a favorite child. I know.
Favorite. Okay, a favorite child. Dang. I mean, like, I don't know if you saw, there was this tweet by somebody that's building a dating app, Soul Date or something like that, and I thought it was hilarious because, like, the internet is supposed to be fun, right? It's supposed to be like people sharing pictures of cats with each other. Like, why not? Like, why does it always have to? Like, why does everything in crypto have to be like around like trading or finance or like all these serious things? So I love to see people that just kind of experiment and like have fun with it and see what happens, because at the end of the day, right, if it gets more people, humans actually understanding what cryptography is, having custody of their keys, that's what's actually growing the pie. That's growing the marketplace. Like every project, even on other chains, that's able to accomplish that is doing a good thing, like for the world. So let's get more of those, as many of those as we can.
Absolutely. All right, I like the closing note of fun things on the internet. We will keep that spirit going strong for the rest of the show. Cheers to you, sir. Thanks for joining us, Anatoly, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks.
Awesome. Take care.
Bye.
I'm going to change tracks here and take us over to Coinbase. We're going to be talking about Brian Armstrong's latest Medium post. We have covered on the show in the past their pivot towards creating a media arm of the company, deciding that they should be in control of their own narrative and sort of pitting themselves against journalists who may or may not be putting out accurate information out there. It's this idea that people like Balaji Srinivasan have really been pushing recently, saying that, this fragmentation of the media, this decentralization, everyone should have their own Medium site, everyone should have their own Substack, everyone should be in control of their own narrative. And Brian Armstrong is really running with that idea. So I want to throw this to the group to get your thoughts on this and on this latest post that he actually just posted on his own Medium. I'll throw this to you first, Jen. What are your thoughts on all of this and this fragmentation and decentralization of media?
Well, I have a few questions here about the story first. Who is Coinbase fact checking? Are they fact checking the media? Are they only fact checking stories about themselves so that they have better control or insight into the narrative that's being spun about them? Do we know?
I think it's going to be a mix of things.
Yeah, there was a mix of things. It was a mix of things. Like, there was like 4 things that they listed as examples. One of them was sort of the energy debate. The other one was like criminals using crypto for nefarious deeds. They wanted to sort of push back. They want to use their sort of bully pulpits sort of push back on these narratives that are really capturing mainstream interest right now. Interesting to see this. I know we saw that Axios scoop the other week about Coinbase launching its own media arm, and I think maybe this is what that was, right? Maybe this is sort of the meat on the bones of that scoop, and the fact that they're sort of making concerted effort to sort of steer the narrative where they see fit. I don't know, kind of rubs me the wrong way, but you know, I'm a smug journalist type who's out here trying to serve the public good, and you know, not my bottom line. So I don't know, maybe I have a little too much skin in this game, but I don't know. I think like, it's just it makes me feel a little icky. We'll see how the execution comes down. I think that's really what it's going to come down to. Is it heavy-handed? Is it Orwellian? Is it propaganda? Or is it fair? Is it down the middle? Is it fact-based? And I would hope that people in the reading community would be able to suss that out and reward the content that is good. I'll throw it to you, Adam. I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I think this is really about areas where Coinbase feels that it has skin in the game. And I think this is something that more companies are going to start doing when they have opportunities to do this. I want to quote from the blog post. This fact check approach is not about antagonizing or embarrassing others, but simply sharing what happened through your own channels. It also means sharing the good along with the bad with radical transparency. Companies are often reticent to share negative facts in their inherent desire to look good, and therefore also have a conflict. To become a source of truth, companies will increasingly need to be comfortable sharing facts which paint them in a negative light as well. There is nothing like sharing mistakes to build trust. Frankly, I think this is exactly the right idea. A lot of these issues we're talking about are complicated. And while we are a little bit of a sophisticated media outlet when it comes to these issues, that is not true about most of the world. And even we get stuff wrong sometimes. These things are really complex. I had never looked at Solana as a protocol before we, were talking with the CEO here. And that's because there are literally thousands of projects out there that are doing things that are largely similar. So it's very, very easy for facts to get conflated, and companies should come out and correct the record when that's true. But I think that the part of the statement that really resonated with me is it's not about doing PR. If you're doing something that you claim as a fact check, but is really like sugarcoating your story, like that's not a good look for anybody. And I think that, again, they would be very silly to launch an effort like this where they would go out and do that. Now, what is or isn't truth, right? 2 different things. And we may see them, bend things a little bit in their favor. But again, if they play by the rules that they just laid out there, I think it's a net positive. Naomi, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just going to add on to that was a section that stuck out for me as well, because I actually don't see a lot of companies doing a lot of that. We're going to show you the dirty truth side of things. It requires a lot of integrity. You've had crypto projects out there. I mean, Zcash has been notoriously transparent about a lot of, the founders reward, where it all goes to. They got nothing but flack for that. So the crypto community doesn't really reward that kind of transparency. They just kind of, dig into it. So I can see a lot of outlets just providing the glossy service. I hope that they don't. But one other thing I'll mention, just in relation to, pitting traditional media outlets against companies and saying, well, one has an agenda, the other doesn't. I would say that's inherently false. Everyone has a bias. This is something that Glenn Greenwald has talked extensively about, that, it's a sad state of affairs when you have certain media outlets saying, well, we're the neutral one. It's them that are the extremists, or they have an agenda, or, well, no, everyone has an agenda. And I think what's important is just that we have a dialogue. We have lots of competing narratives out there, and then readers can choose for themselves. They can hear different sides of the story. So I think it's great that companies are starting to put forward their narrative, because, we will have journalists fact-checking them. We will have other media outlets pushing back. And it's only through hearing that dialogue that we, as readers, discerning, smart people, get to make up our own minds about these things. But Will, I'll throw this to you.
Yeah, really quick comment. I just think the name fact check is really cringy. That just kind of rubs me the wrong way. That's my only thought. I'll give it to Zack.
I guess I just want to say, okay, if we are to accept that everyone has an agenda, not all agendas are equal, right? Like there can be an agenda to advance the public good. There can be an agenda to educate and inform. There can be an agenda to enrich my bottom line and my investors. Like, sure, those are agendas, and sure, everyone has them. But to say just because everyone has an agenda means that therefore you like can't trust one agenda or the other. I mean, like you can't.
It gets real messy, though, right? Zack. It gets real messy. I mean, you have media outlets at the moment who would argue that their only business is letting people know about breaking news. But when it comes down to the bottom line, they're trying to appease their sponsors. They're trying to do all kinds of things. They have like big people up the top who are kind of dictating what they can talk about. So I think that we shouldn't wipe that under the rug and pretend it doesn't exist. It's better that we actually bring that to the fore, recognize this, and then say, well, through that lens, let's look at all these articles and then try to discern information rather than just taking at face value what people are saying. But I understand your point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just would say, one agenda doesn't, just because, whatever. You got me. It's a good point. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying.
One interesting point I saw about this really quick is that Coinbase's, some of the people who hold equity in the company itself have a higher value than the entire New York Times as a company itself. And so that's just like, the disparity of wealth going against each other here is interesting. Obviously, more people are looking at the New York Times every day, and that's its own sort of wealth effect. But there is just a disparity of money when it comes to these two things. So that's just like an interesting note I saw from one commenter on the subject. It will remain unknown.
I call that billionaires punching each other in the wallet.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
What great imagery. Naomi, I'm kind of siding with Zack on this. I mean, I think what you're describing almost sounds like this. Well, I am. It sounds so perfect. And how do we stop bad actors in that scenario? Like, I just can't ever imagine a scenario where everyone is going to play by the rules.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a great point. And I think it just goes back to just allowing as many outlets out there as possible. You can't control what people are going to put forward, but as long as you don't create barriers to entry that stop certain people putting their story forward, then we're fine. People can choose different outlets, compare them with each other, get different sides of the story and try to figure out the truth.
But because, a lot of people you can do that now.
Yeah, I know, but they're just adding one more voice to the discussion is their point. They're saying that ours is a voice that hasn't really been presented well in the past. Mainstream media outlets are taking stories about crypto. They're talking about drug dealers. They're talking about the environment. They're misrepresenting facts, and we need to get our story straight. And we think as experts in the industry that we're the best people to do this. Now, obviously, there are other experts in the industry. There are specific media outlets that are focused on this as well. But I don't think it hurts to add another voice to the mix, people who are working in the industry and who know it inherently well. I think it's great. You're right. People do need to be discerning when they read things, but I think that's just a fact that covers all of life. I think people could really do well to be a lot more discerning with everything they read. But maybe with adding more voices that come from very specific areas of the community, maybe that just widens people's perspective, gives them more knowledge, and hopefully educates them more than just like a single media outlet who's only ever heard the word blockchain as a buzzword and doesn't really know what they're talking about.
Let's drop some more desk.
And all the things. All right, we're going to take a break, guys. When we come back, we're going to be talking about a GameStop NFT. Is that right? We'll tell you whether or not that's right after the break. Hang in there. We'll be back soon.
Hello and welcome back to a special consensus edition of The Hash. All right, so this next story took place in the UK. Luno was ordered to amend misleading ads by UK advertising regulators. So they said that the ads displayed throughout London's transportation network were misleading because they gave the impression that investing in Bitcoin was simple, when in fact, it is complex and volatile. So just full disclosure, Luno is a subsidiary of Digital Currency Group, which is a parent company for CoinDesk. So there we are, being transparent, after that last story. I'm going to throw this right down to you, Naomi. What do you think of this?
It's hilarious. I think that, like, the government, I mean, you got governments all over the world reacting strongly right now. You have Iran that's banning Bitcoin mining for like a certain period of time. You've got India that's talking about bans. Then you've got the United States that's talking about these crackdowns. Then you've got in the UK, you've got like, well, advertisements. We can't let the culture war be won by the crypto people. Let's ban the advertisements so that people, it's not time to buy. The euro and the pound and the dollar, they're all fine, guys. Hang tight. You don't need to worry about crypto just yet. Like, this kind of screams, they just seem so desperate that they're banning advertisements about buying Bitcoin. I mean, you could just listen to Michael Saylor. He's going to tell you all the same things. Or even Elon Musk, even though he's been kind of down on crypto, he still understands why it's so important to have competing currencies. And it seems that the UK is just like, no competing currencies. We'll just keep ours. Thank you very much. So I don't know. I'm going to throw this to Adam. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just raising my hand. I totally echo that. This strikes me as a headline that's very similar to oil companies say electric vehicles are too complex and dangerous, prone to driving into other cars. I mean, again, just like the element of competition here, right? Well, go figure, they're not going to like it. Now, the thing I think really is the question is this standard being evenly applied? Are there other investment products? Because what they've basically said there was that an investment might not go up forever. That's pretty much it. And so if that's the standard for something being complex and being misleading as a result of that, well, does Robinhood advertise there? Do any of these sort of brokerage apps advertise there? Because they basically advertise themselves in exactly the same way. And they're not advertising how volatile the underlying asset is. They're advertising the application that allows you to invest in it. And that application does ostensibly make it easy. So is it really misleading after all? I don't know. But again, like, even standard is really where the question comes to for me. Zach?
I think this is really one of those stories where it's like consumer protection, the government consumer protection is just so poorly equipped for the internet age. I think with Wall Street Bets and with all these sort of meme coins, we're really starting to see that a lot more pronounced, right? Like, just that the disconnect between those two things, and sort of like it gets me thinking about how that chasm can be closed, right? I mean, again, you can find all this information online, you can do your own research, you can not, and sort of to see sort of a government body say, hey, because Bitcoin tanked in price and went down, like, this is not a wholesome ad. We cannot have this on the underground anymore. Just sort of speaks to this disconnect between the present reality of internet and sort of like meme finance moving online at mass scale. And it's just sort of is this funny disconnect between these. So they're just, the regulatory bodies are so poorly equipped to, like, they're bringing the knife to the gunfight here when it comes to meme culture right now. I don't know. I sort of sympathize with them. Will, what do you got?
Yeah, no, just kind of piggybacking off your idea there. Just the idea that government workers who are, there for a pension and they're not really there to innovate are like crushing down on these new ideas is pretty hilarious. And I think if they're going to be consistent with everything, I mean, they got to ban like lotions that don't like rehydrate your body and like make you look younger. They're going to have to like ban all these like lifting substances that don't make you stronger. Like, you got to go down all the line and just start crushing stuff because you got to protect the consumers. I mean, this goes back to
yeah. It could be like sorry to interrupt, but it could be like
with everything.
It could be like like alcohol ads. Please enjoy responsibly, right? You could stick that on every
please enjoy
advertisement for a financial product. Whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's GameStop, whether it's Robinhood. Please enjoy responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER, and we could just be done with it. But I don't know. Maybe there's something to that.
But real quick, there's like a similar story in, I think 2020 or 2019, where BitMEX posted an advertisement in one of the UK's largest papers, and they did a logarithmic chart, I think, of the Bitcoin price and said it's like never gone down. And of course, the price just goes up continually if you put the chart in that format, and they had to yank it out of the paper. So I mean, they have a kind of a history of not liking Bitcoin as an investment thesis. I mean, that advertisement by BitMEX was definitely like a little nefarious because the chart looked really nice and it wasn't as nice in reality. But interesting to see that government's topping in there. I'll give it back to you, Zach.
All right, I'll be devil's advocate. Like, what if the next DeFi rug pull like took out an ad in the subway, right? Is there any obligation for public authorities to be like, hey, wait a minute, this is a bad idea. Bunny Pancake is advertising on the
that's on the editors though.
The G train, right? Yeah, I mean, but like, say this is in the public realm, right? I have a bunch of money and I'm Bunny Swap and I'm going to do a rug pull and I'm going to say, hey, Bunny only goes up from here out. And then the next day I just rug all these people. What's the obligation if I'm a public standards body?
Well, I think
would say
the
that
editor's got to know.
Yeah, I would say at the end of the day, fraud is illegal. So those people are, subject to all of the laws that already exist. That you don't need to start, limiting freedom of speech in case someone decides to do a rug pull down the track. It seems like overkill there. And also, it's like kind of funny the way they phrase it. They said that it's the simplicity of the "it's time to buy" statement. It gives the impression that Bitcoin investment is straightforward and accessible. Like, to me, it just gives the impression that maybe we're headed for major inflation and it's time to buy because you're about to lose all your life savings. Like just because it's a simple advertising slogan, they're like, therefore, the simplicity of the advertising slogan is representative of the simplicity of your product. Like, in what world does that even make sense? It's just such a dumb argument. I can't even handle it.
I think it just really points to this same thing we've been saying all the time on the show is the regulators, one, don't understand what they're regulating. Two, maybe see Bitcoin as a target. And those are my only 2 points. I didn't have a third one. So.
You gotta have a third one.
That's it. I don't got a third one.
Yeah, the third one, it starts with D and ends with Esk. That's your third point. Just
desk. Number 3, desk.
There you go.
I will add to that though that, although we're saying, they should be allowed to advertise and all of that, I do also think it's on the individual to be responsible with the advice they're giving. I will never on my show ever say you guys should buy something. Even with Bitcoin, I don't ever say you should buy Bitcoin. It's going to depend entirely on your risk parameters, on your own portfolio, on how much money you have in the bank. Like, it completely applies to the individual. So I do kind of think that it's irresponsible for people just to be giving blanket investment advice to people, and people should be more careful. But whether it's, up to the UK authorities to ban the ad because of that, I definitely don't agree with that. But I do think that there's a moral element that individuals should be careful with advice that they're giving to others. But let's
Can
change
I say
track
one thing before we go to Adam? I just have to say it.
Permission.
Okay. So it's so funny that the regulators banned the ad and now they're getting so much free press. It's just kind of makes me feel good.
That was pretty funny.
And there were only a couple of people who actually asked for that too, right? So that really kind of was what jumped out at me. The other thing that jumped out at me was who exactly complained? Who was doing that? Because if there were just 3 complaints that came in, that seems like a pretty low threshold to start one of these investigations, all things considered. So, but with that said, let's turn to our next story. So GameStop, the much discussed and long troubled brick and mortar gaming retailer, quietly and with few details, although we caught it, announced that they're working on an Ethereum-based NFT platform. This is an interesting move. Although they really caught fire this year with the Wall Street Bets crowd, they're not a particularly innovative company, but it is worth considering a couple of things here. First, what kind of NFTs will they actually create? So far, we really haven't heard anything about that. Secondly, are we talking, is there any company out there that won't be creating one of these NFT platforms? And then third, given how much competition there is out there for NFT platforms, is this just a bullet point for them, or how far can something like this really go? Well, I have a feeling that you have some gaming experience, so I'm going to toss this one to you.
Does the chair give it away?
No, for the record. For the record. This is my roommate's chair, and yes, it's terribly dorky, but you know what? We're rocking it. We're rocking the chair.
We don't judge.
It looks good.
You already did, so no need to asterisk it. So, okay, NFTs. NFTs on Ethereum is interesting, and I think this is the only time I like NFTs. I don't like the art NFTs. I don't really like any of the gimmicky stuff we're seeing on Twitter. That is all trash. I'm sorry. I think the gaming NFTs are interesting though, because like if you do game, and I don't game for the record, but if you do game, you do want to have some sort of permanence in your gameplay. You want to be able to move from COD 1 to COD 2 to COD 3 and carry your gear with you throughout all 3 games. And this is one way to do it. And this is one way to kind of keep that permanence in the online realms. Interestingly, Vitalik Buterin, who founded Ethereum, this was like a motivation for him to get into Ethereum, or at least like this is a joke, that reason for him to get into creating this digital permanence was he was playing World of Warcraft and his favorite character was deleted during an update, and then he cried, and the next day he started coding Ethereum.
Aww,
and that is why we have NFTs.
Poor Vitalik.
I know, now he's like a multi-billionaire, so there's a lot of lessons in here for all of us. But I think overall, that's the only thing I care about with this NFT thing. And I think it's pretty awesome that GameStop is doing it. I'm wondering if any of the equity from the GameStop saga in January played into this development, but it's hard to know that.
You kind of have the chair of the guy who said, "I like the stock." You know, you could just say, "I like the stock. I like the stock." I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Let's just game this out just based on no details, just whatever, game this out. So if they were to be like the OpenSea, right, they would be like the third-party NFT marketplace for any number of games and titles. Maybe that would make sense, but I don't know. To me, like this seems like the realm of game developers, right, rather than a game retailer. But maybe I'm thinking about it a little bit backwards. I don't know. Adam, I see you kind of thinking and gaming it out. If this were to work, how would it work?
I think
and by work, I mean like capture attention and find users and provide service to them.
Yeah, honestly, I think the biggest challenge around a lot of these types of projects is just that when you're talking about creating a game, you're talking about creating effectively a closed loop economy. So to Will's point, I actually play, or at least used to play, a lot of Call of Duty. And one of the things about it is that they kind of want you to rebuy everything every time you go through, right? They don't really want you to be able to kind of come into that situation and be all kitted out from your last time. And also, I mean, like to the point, of do you need NFTs to accomplish that? Not really. NFTs are useful because they allow for, tokens generally are useful because they allow for projects that look at the same blockchain to look at the same tokens, but treat them differently within their system. Now, for a game company like Activision, you're effectively talking about something they can already do, right? They already have all that information. They already have all the control over who owns what. And again, like to the kind of point about Vitalik, well, even if his character was represented by a token, the character in the game could still go away unless you're designing these games in a fundamentally different way. So on the one hand, it's either a really, really forward-looking, for when games are built in a fundamentally different way around these types of assets approach, or it's capitalizing off a headline. And honestly, based on GameStop's history of innovation, my money is that they're capitalizing on a headline. Naomi, I saw your hand go up. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's such an interesting take, but I will add that what the company does isn't just dependent upon what they want for their users, whether they want people to buy it. It may come from consumer demand. It may be that you have other games innovate in this way. When you say that it's you don't see a third party initiating this, something like GameStop, it's going to come from the game developers themselves. Maybe, but I mean, that's just going to create a bunch of competing ecosystems. I don't see collaboration happening there. So I do think it's going to be on one of these third parties to create those bridges. And I think once certain games start saying, okay, well, let's join together, then you're going to have these larger games that are saying, okay, people are flocking to them because there is this interoperability. So I do think that could be a point for gamers that is attractive to them. So people might start considering this. I agree, like NFTs, it seems like gaming is the perfect arena for NFTs. It seems like it's, for so long, I mean, you've had these black markets for assets within games, people trading on the side, and people pretend it's not happening, and the game developers pretend it's not happening because it's not really legal. But if they could actually say, hey guys, you can trade on here, you can trade openly, you can trade interoperably with other platforms, that could be a really cool calling card that could set your game apart, especially in a world where there's a lot of competition in that arena. So, I don't know whether GameStop is the company to provide that. As you said at the start, Adam, they're not the most technologically innovative company. In this article from CoinDesk, it says a sparsely populated page on GameStop's website said the company is welcoming exceptional engineers. Like, is this for the first time? Like, what are they meaning there? So I don't know. We'll see what happens with them in particular, but I do think the gaming world is a great play for NFTs.
So just taking it back for a second, and then we'll go to you, Jen. I have so much to say about these gaming topics because I used to be such an anti-cynic around them because they seem so perfect. But you look at the way the industry works, and it really, we have not seen the uptake from any sort of traditional companies. Now, GameStop does have a meaningful brand. So if someone were going to create an OpenSea type marketplace where they're not really creating the tokens themselves, they're just providing a common venue, then I could see that working really well. But just to kind of go back in history a little bit, so there's this company called Epic Games that has this game called Fortnite. There's this company called Valve that has this platform called Steam that in the PC world is effectively the dominant way that you distribute and sell video games. And they have had kind of this back and forth over the last couple of years around whether or not game ownership should be tied to platforms. I think this is the perfect venue for tokenization to occur, where when you buy something on one of these platforms, you're not buying it from, you're not buying it so that you can use it on the Steam platform. You're just buying it. And it doesn't matter whether you're using it, the same analogy can then transpose into music, right? And you're talking about, it doesn't matter if you buy it from iTunes, it doesn't matter if you buy it from Amazon Music, you're just buying it. And I think that if there's one thing that tokens can really do that would be really good for just about everybody, it's that. But the challenge is, and what Epic has been running into, is that the incumbent in the space, Valve in this case, has no incentive to do that. In fact, they stand to lose a lot. So it kind of has to come with a couple of different factors. One is that it has to come with the ability for gamers have to actually want it, right? They have to want it. They have to indicate that they want it. And then there has to be a really well-funded upstart who can take that message, make it mainstream, and effectively weaponize it against the incumbent. If you can pull that off, then that's the kind of thing that I think we need to see before one of these things manifests into real life. Otherwise, I think, again, you get a lot of happy talk around these ideas because the use cases seem so enticing. But in practice, how do you manifest them in real life? It's really tough.
Yeah,
all right,
great
folks,
points.
Let's wrap this thing up. You guys ready to wrap this thing up with me? You guys want to do this with me?
Let's wrap it up. And can we jump some more desk while we wrap it up?
Time.
Desk
Naomi.
Desk time.
Jenna.
Just do like an Oprah thing.
hook up.
Desk for you.
This is the Naomi desk. This is the Naomi desk. Okay.
Everybody gets
all right.
desk.
Well, hold on. Time out. We're wrapping up. This is the hash for today. But we got a big day of consensus tomorrow. A really big day of consensus tomorrow. You may have saw that thing a little bit earlier with Tom Brady. He's on the show tomorrow. Not this show, but on the consensus show. He's from Sports Ball. He's really good at Sports Ball. He's got many Sports Ball rings, and he's got laser eyes, and he's really doing it. So he's going to be on tomorrow night, 8 p.m. That means that the hash is going to be on at 9 p.m. Super duper prime time, 9 p.m. episode of the hash tomorrow night. We're going to talk about Tom Brady. Also, CZ of Binance is on the show, is on Consensus tomorrow. Kathy Wood of ARK Invest is on Consensus tomorrow. There's some big guns who are closing out this edition of Consensus. So definitely tune in. Going to be a lot of good programming over the day. This week, there's just been so much going on this week. I'm just running on fumes. There's been so much news, both from within the consensus land and outside of consensus land. There's been a lot going on, and we're doing our best to keep you on top of it. So tune in tomorrow night, 9 p.m. We're going to talk about all the latest and greatest in crypto news, because that's what we do with the hash, and it's going to be super fun. I'm Zach. That's Naomi. We got Will, Jen, Adam. Gang's all here. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much, and I hope you are enjoying your consensus experience. Thanks again. See you soon.
Bye.